Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And in this video, we're going to be looking at a problem with this. Hello, and thank you once again for joining me on my YouTube channel. And yes, the topic is a little bit cryptic today. Before we get into it, I really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. There's probably a little clicky thing here in the corner. And at the end of the video, there'll be some stuff up here which will tell you some other videos of mine which you may or may not like. And periodically throughout the video, up here somewhere, one of these corners, there'll be something for you to click on, and it will take you to my channel and all the other things that I'm probably talking about in this episode. So let's crack on with the episode. So it all relates to one of these, which probably some of you call a thumb drive. I call it a USB stick, and what happens is I've put all my Beatles music on one of these, and I can have them, every single Beatles album I possess, in the car. And one day I was driving along and all the files got corrupted except a couple, and like it was dreadful because I had a long journey to go and no Beatles music to listen to, so I had to listen to the radio instead. But hey, that was all right as well. So then that got me thinking, imagine if doing a long drive and this got corrupted, as it did for me, but you could only listen to one track per album, two if it was a double album, of all the Beatles albums. And I'm not one for doing, the top 10 of this or the top 3 of this particular album, but I just thought for something a little bit different from my usual videos, I would tell you what I would love to hear if my thumb drive USB stick got corrupted and I could only hear one track from each of the albums. A bit like Desert Island Discs, I suppose. You can only take one track, from each album. What would you listen to? So just to set the ground rules, I'm listening to British albums, not the American ones where they've chopped and changed all around. So sorry from my American friends, but these are the British albums. So kicking straight off with Please Please Me. For me, it has to be I Saw Her Standing There. It's a standout first LP track. I listened to them all before making the video. And I think, for me, if I could only listen to one track from Please Please Me, it would be I Saw Her Standing There. With the Beatles, which is obviously the second album in the UK, I went with a George track. I'm a bit of a George fan, but for me, Don't Bother Me is my favourite track off of the album. So I would be absolutely gutted if I couldn't hear that one anymore. So if I could hear one track from With the Beatles, it would be Don't Bother Me. Nearly all I got to do, but I went with Don't Bother Me. A Hard Day's Night. It's You Can't Do That. I love it. I just love the sound of it. Ringo's cowbell and drumming and all that. It's fantastic. That's my favourite track of A Hard Day's Night. Moving on to Beatles for Sale. Now, for me, this is an overlooked classic, fantastic harmonies, and that's What You're Doing. I think that's my favourite track from Beatles for Sale. Moving on to Help. Now, this was a close call. The Night Before was up there. You Like Me Too Much was up there. But in the end, I went for The Night Before. It was, for me, that is my standout track from the album Help. I mean, Help itself is a great track, but for me, I really love The Night Before. Moving on to Rubber Soul. Now, remember, these are the British albums. So Rubber Soul, 2 tracks came a close second. If I Needed Someone, another George track, and Run for Your Life, just for the lyrics. It's sort of craziness really when you listen to it, but of course it had to be In My Life, which for me is it's Lennon's masterpiece from that time. I love it. Moving on to Sadder Things. That's going to be my funeral song, In My Life. Why wouldn't it be? What would your funeral song be? But no, for me, In My Life. Moving on to the British Revolver. well, there's only one track on there for me, and that's Tomorrow Never Knows, or The Void as it was originally called, but Tomorrow Never Knows, because that was just a little sneak into what was to come in future. Now, in the UK, I should have explained, I'm not doing compilations, but I am including a collection of Beatles oldies, because that was an official Beatles release at the time, and it just sort of coupled all the B-sides and things together. But it also had an unreleased track of Bad Boy on it. But for me, it's got on their Paperback Writer, and it's a great track. I love the video as well to go with it. There might be a link up here. I might put a link to the video if you've never seen it. It's fantastic. So yeah, from a collection of Beatles oldies, it's from collection of Beatles oldies, it's Paperback Writer. Moving on to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Only has to be one track really. Day in the Life nearly, but no. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I was listening to it on headphones, and oh man, it blew my mind again. Every time I listen to it, it's just fantastic. Okay, now we're moving on to the White Album, or the Beatles as it's called, and because it's a double album, I'm allowing myself a track from each of the discs. So from the first disc, being a George fan, it has to be While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and on the second disc it has to be Revolution 1. Yeah, both great tracks, and for me, I really love the White Album, and this was a really hard one to choose. So in the end, I just went for, being a George fan, I'll take Guitar and Revolution 1, because it's just a great tune. Okay, moving on to Yellow Submarine, a song on there which has got an awesome start, and for me, it's the bit that I love to watch whenever I watch the movie. It was cut out of, I think it might have been cut out of the American edition of the movie, but whatever. Anyway, it was Hey Bulldog. What a great song. And there's a video for it. So once again, there'll be a link up there. So if you've never seen it, you've got to watch it, because it's incredible. Okay, moving on now. In the UK, we had Magical Mystery Tour EP. And in the US, you obviously had the album. So we did get the album later on, so I don't care, I'm just going for the album. I know it's probably throwing my rules out the window a little bit, but this was on both anyway. So I'm the Walrus, has to be, doesn't it, from Magical Mystery Tour. Again, I'll stick a link up there. I'm sure you've seen it billions of times, but click on the link and watch it again. Okay, now we're moving up to Abbey Road, coming to the end of their time as a band, and for me, The End is my favourite song. Just when it starts, and then you've got the solos, you've got Ringo doing his drum solo, and then the dueling guitars where they're just sort of, trying to play off each other and stuff. Even to this day, I was listening to it in surround sound from the 50th anniversary box set. Even to this day, I get the same reaction as the very first time I ever heard it. It sends shivers up and down my spine and the hairs on the back of my neck when I'm listening to those guitar solos. Wow, it just every single time. And it actually brings a little tear to my eye, because, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. What a perfect ending for the Beatles' career, because obviously, as we know, Let It Be was recorded before that, but was released after Abbey Road. Talking of Let It Be, well, I had a close second for You Blue, being a George fan, but in the end, I went for Get Back, because whenever I hear it, I just can't help singing along. And and why not? I love it. It's a great track. So, moving on now. This is again what I said about compilations. However, this was issued during their time together, Hey Jude, and it also gave me a chance to sneak in another track that I couldn't have from another album. So we're going with Rain, which was the B-side to Paperback Writer, and again, a great video. I'll stick it up there. Right, then there was a huge gap from that to from Let It Be time to the next British release, which was Live in the Star Club in Hamburg. And for me, if I could go back to any point in the Beatles' history, I would happily go back to the Star Club in Hamburg. Who wouldn't want to watch the Beatles doing rock and roll standards for 8 hours at a night time? More, if not more. Just to sit there in a club watching them fool around on the stage, but more importantly, just to see them playing, learning their craft. Yeah, so I would love to go. I'd love to have seen them in the Star Club. Again, double album. So we shall go with 2 tracks. And on the first side of my copy, I'm sure they've all been chopped and changed around on different releases. But my copy on the first disc, I would go with Hippie Hippie Shake. And then on the second disc is a song that I actually love to play on guitar when I'm sort of dabbling around, and it's Hallelujah, I Love Her So. And for me, whenever I hear that, I can just imagine them on the stage, on that little stage in Hamburg. Now, the next album was the Hollywood Bowl, and obviously that has subsequently been re-released, but this track is on both, so we're going to go with the Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl, and just purely for the vocals of Things We Said Today, because there's a little bit in it, and it always makes me smile. You can hear Paul and George singing the vocals, and they're just a little bit out of time, sort of in the middle of the song, and for me that just makes it. So yeah, Hollywood Bowl is Things We Said Today. Now, moving on, British and the American rarities. So again, I'm only going with British, so I'm afraid I didn't get to choose anything off of the American rarities, and I went with I Call Your Name. Why not? It's a great track. That was purely it. I love it. In fact, I probably have chosen that one twice. Let me have a look. No, maybe not. Maybe not. So, yeah, I Call Your Name. Then we've got another huge hiatus in between releases. Next up is Live at the BBC. Again, another double album, so I was able to choose 2. Now, I've heard these tracks for years before this album came out, and Soldier of Love was, for me, standout of all the bootlegs I've ever heard of it. And then on the second disc, they put a song that I'd never heard before the Beatles doing, so that's Don't Ever Change. So I thought, yeah. So we're going with Soldier of Love and Don't Ever Change. Shortly after that, I think it was probably the next year or even 6 months later, we had Anthology 1. So again, lots of early stuff, early acetates. Was I going to choose That'll Be the Day, their first ever track? I went with the unreleased single, How Do You Do It? Again, I'd heard it many, many years before, but I thought, heck, why not? Let's go with How Do You Do It? And then on the second disc, Leave My Kitten Alone, which was an unreleased track, and I'd never even heard of it probably until, I don't know, the late 80s when it sort of surfaced on a few bootlegs. Then we get on to Anthology 2, and out of the 2 new Beatles songs, so we've got Free as a Bird, I went with Real Love, because out of the 2, I actually prefer Real Love. I know a lot of people like Free as a Bird, but for me, Free as a Bird is like listening to one of them charity singles where you've got people lining up to sing a line. So it's like Paul sings a line, John sings the line, George sings the line, and then they're just sort of all singing together. And for me, it just felt like one of those sort of singles where everyone just takes their turn. Whereas Real Love, Lennon vocal, the rest of them playing, it's just like a Beatles song. Shame about the Lennon quality, and obviously it was off a cassette, but there we are. So yeah, Anthology 2, the first one I went with Real Love. Second one, different mix totally of Penny Lane. I am aware that they've combined different mixes to make a different mix, but yeah, I really like the Penny Lane version on Anthology 2. Moving on to Anthology 3, well, it's great to hear Helter Skelter in its original form, the slow drum beat, and do you, don't you want me? So for me, yeah, Helter Skelter, and then I nearly went with The End again from Abbey Road, because again that's got different guitar bits in it, but I went with Something for the different mix of Something, purely because it just sounded great. Next up, the next album we had released was Yellow Submarine Songbook, and again that gave me an opportunity to choose stuff from previous that I hadn't chosen, so I went with Think for Yourself, George track. Why wouldn't I? Let It Be Naked, I prefer... No, I'm not going to say I prefer. I like Let It Be Naked as much as I like the original Let It Be, and they run side by side perfectly well. So I'm not going to be one of these people who say, oh, Let It Be Naked's much better than Let It Be, or Let It Be whatever. They complement each other, because it's great to hear the Let It Be stuff stripped down. So Let It Be Naked, we're going to go with Two of Us. And then obviously we have the Cirque du Soleil Love Show soundtrack, And I went with one because it incorporates 3 songs in one. So it's got Drive My Car, The Word, and What You're Doing, all sort of, intersegued into each other. So really, really love, and listen to it on surround sound. It's fantastic. Coming up to the last Beatles album that I chose from, and that's the BBC Volume 2. Again, 2 tracks, and I went with Lend Me Your Comb. Again, I'd heard it previously many times, and Memphis, Tennessee many times. But just to hear John singing it, it's great, and that really concludes it. It was just a bit of fun. Let me know if you disagree or agree, or what you would choose. But it's just a bit of fun. It's just my opinion, so no one get upset and all antsy about it. As I say, it's just in case this little bugger fails and I could only choose 1 track from each. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and click on some of these links for other videos. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.